I haven't spent much time here in my life, although I come and go, I have these little forays. Now, what would I like to do to show off? I was thinking about how my life, a lot of people say this is like a river, and we've heard that many times. And my river goes in circles. So I ended up back there for a few things. I wrote my first piece here in Racine when I was 17. And the first thing I really wrote when I was visiting my mother, she said, "How are you, Ray?" I said, "Mom, I'm spun out of heroin. I don't know what to do. Can I stay here and hide for a while?" She said, "Yeah." A couple days later, the guy's house I've been staying at was much more older than I was, drowned in his ice cream. I wrote this. It's called "The Friend in Need." And he cries as he laughs, begging for release, unable to cope with the inexplicable truth. God, the height for which he daily climbs, just to fall before the top, happiest at the peak. He tries again and more until, alas, the joy of despair, apparently enjoying each new point he uses on his journey, he one day fails himself, and I weep. I was 17. I was working at the KKK club here in Racine. I was 17 years old, and there were 17 bullet holes in the ceiling. I always remember that. I know it wasn't illegal, but I had a job there. And maybe 4 or 5 days after I wrote this first piece, I wrote my second piece. It's called "Prejudgment Blues." Judging from your actions, the situation in hand is easily controlled, unmistakably. Mistakes, hardly understood, nevertheless realized in a remote sort of manner that Tom can see Dick, whose life wasn't set down in a simple blueprint, and exploit his actions in prejudgment, knowing, perhaps, from the color of his skin or the way he holds a cigarette in unhip fashion, not exactly a socialite in the same degree, he can put him down when he's not around. When Dick, not explaining his actions to Harry, bartender, puts himself in a precarious situation indeed, especially when Tom and Harry get together in a very conscious manner, able to conclude at a glance that he's a mere post-work idea and review his case. He's simple and unclean, not unlike their dear cousin, Judy, whose problem being none of her business, but she's often a mirror. The occasional who enters seems unwelcome as the people desperately try and tag him. But as he turns, they see right through him, which means, of course, no answer to him is rarely at hand, except he's not liked, which nearly breaks his heart as he searches for truth, an elusive subject, but granted with a certain credibility that can't be tagged or judged, but truly realized in a personal manner, not befitting a pleaser of the crowds. I left Racine shortly after that and traveled. And one of the things that led me back to this was a little piece I recently wrote on my Facebook site in my notes. It's called "The Long Bus Ride." I was living in an old dude ranch in Tucson with a beautiful Lebanese woman when it hit the sadness. It went on for days. I wrote a song called "Changing of the Garden" about not wanting to see the sunset and things. I decided to buy a bus ticket and go home to Racine, Wisconsin. I don't really know why. I took her to the Saguaro National Forest, and amongst the cactus tried to explain it. She got naked and sat on a rock and looked at the vista for a long while. I watched her and communed with her from afar. We came to terms. I bought the ticket and rode 3 goddamn days on the ground. When I got to the scene, my mother and her boyfriend, Laverne, picked me up. On the way to the house, they told me my mother had a tumor the size of a baseball on her brain and she needed surgery immediately. They said they had seen the X-ray at St. Luke's in the scene, When I'd gone to the Mayo Clinic, where it was confirmed, they told me only 3 doctors in the world did this kind of surgery. One was in Sweden, one was in LA, one was in Nashville. They said we were going to Nashville tomorrow with my grandpa. I went out that night with my brother. We drank until the bars closed. We went to his friend's house and did a few lines of some pretty potent coke. They fell asleep. I was left talking with some guy I'd never seen before. For reasons yet explained to me, I told him he was a healer, that he should be doing that. He groaned and told me he knew that. He said his family, his grandmother, and especially his grandfather, had been telling him that almost every night at supper. This is where it gets even weirder. His grandfather was dead. He would talk to the family at the supper table. His grandfather was a saint of sorts from Mexico, and had passed and told this guy he should carry the rod of power. That it was his destiny to heal. We talked. I told him about my mother. He said he would talk to his grandfather. I never saw him again. My mother, Laverne, and my grandfather went to Nashville that morning. When they returned, I asked how it went. My mother told me when she got to the hospital and took an x-ray, they could find no evidence whatsoever of a tumor. This is changing the world.
Let them catch you at the change, you know.